Hey, welcome to our explainer on audit and regulatory compliance. This is the very first module in our series on the introduction to audits. We're going to kick things off by diving into the core philosophy and objectives. Then, over the next 4 modules, we'll cover everything from management and planning to execution and reporting. By the end, you'll have a really solid professional foundation for understanding pharmaceutical audits. All right, let's jump right in.
So just think about that question for a second. I mean, really think about it. We're not talking about a factory that makes widgets. This is a place that produces medicine that people absolutely depend on. You can't just cross your fingers and hope everything's okay. You need a rock-solid, systematic way to prove it. And that, right there, is what an audit is all about.
So what exactly is an audit? Well, the official definition can sound super formal, right? A systematic, independent, and documented process. But the core idea is actually pretty simple. The best way to think about it, as you can see, is like a really thorough health check for a company's entire quality system.
Okay, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to really unpack this whole concept. We'll start with what we mean by a systems health check, then get into why audits matter so much. After that, we'll meet the 3 key players involved, figure out the difference between internal versus external audits, and finally, we'll explore the all-important auditor's mindset.
All right, first up, let's get right to the heart of it. What really makes an audit an audit? It's not just about looking at things. It's about a fundamental philosophy.
Now this, right here, is probably the most crucial distinction you need to understand. An inspection is reactive. It finds a problem that's already happened, like, hey, this tablet is broken. But an audit is proactive. It goes a level deeper and asks, wait a minute, is the machine calibrated correctly so that it doesn't break tablets in the first place? See the difference? It's a huge shift from looking at the product to looking at the system that makes the product.
You have to burn this phrase into your brain. This is the absolute golden rule of auditing. An auditor can't take anyone's word for it. Someone saying, oh yeah, we totally do that, means nothing. They need to see the proof, the hard, objective evidence. If there's no log entry, no signature, no date, then for all intents and purposes, it just didn't happen.
So we know what an audit is, but why? Why do companies go through this incredibly detailed process? Trust me, it's not just about ticking boxes on a form. Audits have some seriously critical goals for both public safety and the business itself. The number 1, top of the list, non-negotiable objective is patient safety. Full stop. The entire point of this whole exercise is to find risks, things like potential contamination, before they have any chance of harming a patient. Everything else is secondary to that. Okay, next up is a huge one, regulatory compliance. Pharma companies live in a world governed by agencies like the US FDA. Audits are how they make sure they are inspection-ready 24/7. And the stakes here are incredibly high. A failed regulatory audit isn't just a slap on the wrist. It can literally get your factory shut down. And, of course, from a business angle, audits are absolutely essential for survival. Think about it. A single product recall can cost a company millions upon millions of dollars. But even worse, it can destroy the trust that people have in a brand, and that's damage you can't always repair. A good audit program is your best defense against that kind of disaster.
And finally, here's something you might not expect. A great audit program isn't just about finding what's broken. It's about finding ways to do things even better. It's the tool that helps a company go from just being compliant to achieving real quality excellence. It's about getting more efficient and making a better, safer product.
Okay, so an audit is a formal process, not just some casual walk around. And that formality is defined by 3 very distinct roles. So let's take a look at who's actually involved in this dance.
It's actually pretty simple when you break it down. First, you have the client. That's the person or the company that's asking for the audit to happen. Then you have the auditee. That's the organization or the department that's actually being examined. And finally, the star of the show, the auditor. This is the qualified person doing the audit, and the most important word to describe them is independent. They have to be neutral. Now, the specific relationship between those 3 players is what determines the type of audit we're talking about. So let's look at the 3 main ways they're classified. This table lays it out perfectly. A first-party audit is internal. That's you auditing yourself. The goal is to find your own gaps before a regulator does. It's meant to be collaborative. A second-party audit is when you audit one of your suppliers to make sure they're meeting your standards. It's professional. It's contractual. And then you have the third-party audit. This is the big one, when an outside agency like the FDA shows up for licensing and legal compliance. The tone here, very formal and absolutely binding.
So we've covered the what, the why, and the who. But to be a really effective auditor, you need a lot more than just a checklist. You need a very specific professional mindset. This is all about the human element.
You know, a great auditor is a unique mix of things. They have to be fiercely ethical, telling the truth even when it's tough. They have to be open-minded, ready to listen to an explanation, but always firm on needing to see the proof. They've got to be diplomatic because, let's face it, people can get pretty nervous or defensive, and they have to be incredibly observant, like a detective, noticing the tiny details that might point to a much bigger problem.
So how does an auditor actually put that mindset into practice? Well, it often comes down to a very simple but incredibly powerful two-word technique: show me.
So picture this. The auditor is in a lab, and they walk up to an operator. They might ask a simple question, something like, "Do you calibrate this balance?"
And the operator, of course, is going to say yes. It's the easy, automatic answer. But for an auditor, that word, yes, means absolutely nothing on its own.
So the auditor's immediate follow-up is, "Please show me the logbook." And that is the key. That's the pivot from a simple conversation to a demand for documented, objective proof. That's the show me technique in action.
And this really brings us back to the core philosophy. A good audit and a good auditor is not on some kind of witch hunt. They're not there to point fingers or blame individuals. The whole goal is to find the weak points and the failures in the system so the company has a clear roadmap to fix them. It's meant to be constructive.
So, we'll end on a question for you to think about. An auditor's checklist is kind of like their flight plan, right? It keeps everything consistent and on track. But why do you think that same essential tool is sometimes called a double-edged sword? It's a really interesting challenge, and something we'll touch on when we get into audit planning and execution in our upcoming modules.